Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at some of the news that's come out in War Thunder today. The first piece of news is a birthday for a Spitfire, and the second piece of news is about the BR changes. They have been implemented today, and if you want to have a look at them, I'll leave a link to the table in the description. If you don't really care too much about the Spitfire coming back, or, the birthday stuff, then I'll leave some chapters in the description as well. You can just skip to where you want, so you can see the different context and stuff and all of that wonderful things. So the first part of the news is about Vasily Matsievich. It's his birthday being celebrated. He was born on the 13th of April 1913, and as a part of the 26th Regiment, he defended Leningrad from enemy bombers during the blockade, and by June 1942 had made 196 sorties. In 1943, he was awarded the highest reward of the USSR, the Order of Lenin, the Gold Star Medal, and the title of the Hero of the Soviet Union. Because of this, from the 13th of April to the 17th of April, they are going to be selling the Spitfire Mk IXC in the Soviet tree. This is one of the earliest premiums that I remember, and known affectionately, at least the American version, as the Spacefire. Still is very good, and we'll get into a little review here for you now. So the Spitfire Mk IXC is at 5.7 at rank 4. This vehicle has some pretty nice rewards on it, some good old SL reward. Just remember, I'm running a booster right now for 15%, so it has that on top of it. Also, the research for RP is good as well. The Mk IXC is incredibly similar to the LF Mark IX. That's probably the best comparison to it, because they both have the Merlin 66 engine. The only difference is mainly the armament. The US one gets access to the 4 Brownings, the 7.7mm, and also the 20mm Hispanos, the Mark IIs. Unfortunately not Mark Vs, but obviously those are more later for the machines. The vehicle also doesn't get access to a secondary ordnance. The good old British one gets access to a bomb, the 250 pounder, so that is a bit of a problem, but c'est la vie, it's not a huge issue at the end of the day. This thing is more of an air superiority fighter anyway, and the 20mm, even though you don't have a ton of rounds in them, you can actually use the ground belts or some of the stealth belts to be able to go through the top of a decent amount of vehicles at 5.7. The Spitfire Mk IXC is a defensive fighter which has a very good climb rate. This pretty much means as long as you match up against anything that isn't called a 0, you can destroy it pretty easily. One of the things that was really nice going through the tree for Britain was playing a lot of similar vehicles like this, where sometimes the Spitfires had a little bit of an underpowered engine, so stuff like the 5.0 Seafire, for example, having a pretty rough time, the LF Mark III, but most of them having a good time and being able to defensively fly and rotate around very, very easily. The Spitfire Mk IXC is no different. It's a vehicle that can fit in ground forces, it's a vehicle that can fit in naval forces and air forces, but it focuses on air superiority. Are there a lot of vehicles around this BR, which if played correctly can be quite annoying to fight, because this thing does not have the out-and-out speed to be able to catch them? Yes. Do most people do that? No. So the simple thing is, because this thing can keep itself alive through maneuvering, it makes it very easy to play against a lot of the competition. It's also the same price in the game as the Yak-3 VK 107. The 107 actually I point to as a vehicle if you're struggling with the USSR to pick up because of its overall performance being very good. But the difference is this will actually go on sale at some point, whereas this is only here for a short limited period of time. I don't think this is a bad vehicle. I would say it's actually pretty good. The simple fact is there's a lot of duds in the Soviet tech tree which can be hard to get through, especially nowadays with the general way of play. So getting something like a rank 4 premium isn't actually that bad to kind of get you through the tech tree. A lot of people go for stuff like the SU-11 though, or stuff such as the SU-25K, which just got moved up, or a few other things. But the Spitfire Mk IXC and also the Yak-3 are both solid options if you want to pick stuff like that up. It doesn't have access to a different camo, which kind of sucks, but at the same time there's a lot of user camos for this thing, which make it look really nice. The vehicle, if I didn't have it, I would probably pick it up, just because it's a really fun one, and I've always had a great time with the Spitfires in the game, and this is a representation of one of the powerful ones. There was also a server update today where they added in the BR changes, which we've talked about over the last few days. It looks like they did follow the data mine ones and also gave reasoning why they have pushed a bunch of different things up. So we're going to go through that verbatim, and then we'll have some comments on it. Another thing to also mention is they have also implemented the aircraft damage model changes. So we'll have to see how that affects the vehicles. It does say, "Dear players, we appreciate your feedback and suggestions. In the recent BR updates, we continue to introduce our approach to gradually increase the battle ratings of the top and pre-top vehicles. This approach allows us to identify solid leaders and outsiders by combat efficiency and make corresponding adjustments to the planned BR updates. This time we're updating the BR 9.7 plus vehicles, including a few 9.3s, in order to consider BR 9397 vehicles and below. Thanks to your feedback, we've noticed a few rank 3 vehicles, such as the Comet and T-3485, which also had their BR updated. As for the Harrier GR1 efficiency, it could have a higher rating, but due to the massive feedback, we decided to reduce its BR to 9.7, both in RB and SB. We'll closely monitor its efficiency after this update. We also have noticed your suggestions concerning the G91Y. At the moment, we are working on the new weapon menu, including new air-to-surface munitions for this aircraft. This requires special model updates and new weapons to be introduced to the game in one of the upcoming updates. Also, the previously announced BR updates for the Focke-Wulf 190D12 and the TAR-152C3 in RB mode will also not be introduced yet. Although these aircraft remain BR Rise candidates, we decided to wait and monitor their efficiency a little more. Some aircraft receive their BR updates in accordance with their modifications. The American F-8E gets 10.0 in SB, same as the French F-8E. Chinese F-5A gets its BR to 10.7 in RB, same as the F-5E. After the F-4U-1A for the US, the British Corsair F Mark II and Japanese F-4U-1A will have their BR lowered to 3.3 in SB. Although we agree with your suggestions to lower the BR of the AH-6M, but only in AB. Further changes of ground vehicles and helicopters will take us further research. We were pleased to hear your positive feedback on the top-tier Enduring Confrontation mode. Other BR changes in the SB mode will also support the variability for all rotations regardless of the week. Unfortunately, some of your suggestions did not take into account the possibility of encounters for the minimum BR value. However, after analyzing the feedback and statistics, we decided to increase the Ariete's BR to 9.0. At the same time, we do not plan to lower the BR of the C-202EC in the upcoming rating updates, which might not correspond to SB matches at 2.3 to 3.7. So the Enduring Confrontation changes will be implemented later. From looking at the BR changes, it all follows a similar trend. It's mainly just BR decompression at the end of the day. And since the top bracket has now gone up, it is now time to look at the secondary bracket. And then after that, when that's done, the tertiary bracket will have looked at. And then we'll just continue going down this road as we have been the last few years. One of the things that has been nice in general is the fact that many people have not really been talking about BR decompression recently because it's been happening a bunch. So now we have to move on to another unfortunate topic of negativity to talk about, but at least at the moment it seems pretty positive. There's not really many changes here that don't make sense to me. Obviously, I'm still wondering why, for Germany, for example, the good old Puma gets pushed up, but it looks like the Baglet Panzer stays at 9.3, and I have no idea why that is. I think it's a bit weird now in the tech tree where the Baglet Panzer is 9.3, the Rad is 9.3, and the Puma is 9.7. They need to either swap these around, or they need to move around the BR changes. I still think there's some AAs which need moving around. After playing stuff like the ZSU 37-2 recently, and other vehicles, they're definitely in a bit of a rough place, mainly down to the radar changes, which I don't think are bugs. A lot of people have talked about the idea of them being bugs, but I've seen, no confirmation from Gaijin that they're bugs, and also with all the radar changes, I'd be kind of surprised if they were, but that, for me, I would actually have a look at. The other parts, of course, are make sense to me. So that bracket of 9.0 to 10.0 for jets, hopefully at some point it becomes a bit more stabilized. With the Su-25s going up, we can only hope. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Kupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.